What's up, guys? So super interesting video today. So you've probably heard people talk about the 12th house in astrology and how it's a house of dreams, karma, secrets, everything hidden. And you know, that could be true, but it's actually way, way, way deeper than that, right? The 12th house is one of the most powerful, mysterious, and karmically loaded parts of anyone's natal chart. And most people have no idea how deep this house actually goes. So in this video, we're going to break down the 12th house in a way that I don't know if you've ever heard before. I put in a lot of studying for this one, or like I really went through my notes, and hope you guys enjoy it. So it's not just about suffering, right? So why is that? You know, it truly is the house that holds, or that that secretly holds our biggest spiritual gifts, and I'm going to talk about these cycles of isolation, confusion, the hidden power that it entails, and even if you don't have planets in the 12th house, I'm going to go through your 12th house sign, maybe even the ruler, maybe not that far, and really show you how this 12th house energy reveals your hidden spiritual challenges and strengths as well. So if you've ever felt misunderstood, energetically drained, like you absorb other people's energy, or like your soul is trying to tell you something that you can't quite explain, then this video should really help everything click, especially if you have a lot of 12th house planets, a lot of Neptune, Pisces, whatever. Either way, let's roll the intro. Let's get into it. This is going to be a very, very deep and interesting one. All right. What's up, guys? So let's get into it. So what is the 12th house in astrology? So by the way, this video I have a lot of notes, so I'm going to be looking down a good amount, more than usual, but just go with it. So the core meaning of the 12th house, it's a house of the unseen, the spiritual, the subconscious, what you can't physically touch, or control, right? So there's a big link between past life karma and the 12th house, and how the soul is stepping forward, right, into this life, in this incarnation. So obviously, there's the dealings with dreams, illusions, spiritual experiences, past life memories, hidden enemies, etc. So if you want to talk about the 12th house experience, right, one thing is that there's a constant internal dialogue, right? There seems to be this, what happens with 12th house energies is that early on weak is sort of the wrong word, but they can be repressed energies in the psyche, right? So if there was like a strong guardian or someone to protect them early on, that's great. But for a lot of people, these energies start out weak or very vulnerable in life, and before they are able to gain the skills to have boundaries, to have ego strength, etc. Sometimes they can kind of like push these parts of their psyche, especially namely people who have planets there. So obviously, with that said, boundaries are essential. Any 12th house Neptunian Piscean person could be like the most talented, mystically talented in empathy, all that, but just struggle with boundaries, and that could just destroy your life, right? If you're someone who is the best psychic or astrologer, or just has like so much to give to the world in whatever shape or form, but you're someone who doesn't see your own, who's blind to your own strength, who's blind to your own value, and stays in a relationship that is with like an energy vampire, because 12th house people tend to attract those types of people, like very psychically messed up people. And I'll talk about that more a bit later, but there's a tendency for them to actually take on, attract people who have psychic wounds. It's actually fucking crazy. Excuse my language. But yeah, anyways, so boundaries are essential, right? And that for a lot of 12th housers takes time. And time alone is also essential. And what happens a lot early on in life is people, with 12th house planets often don't know what boundaries are, nor do most people, and they can kind of become like chameleons based on like what people think they should be as opposed to who they really are. It can take a really long time for them to really figure out who they are, and that is mostly done through isolation or through time alone, right? When you're alone. So, but like what's really difficult, and a friend of mine, we just had a session yesterday, and she's a 12th houser, right? And that was her life experience, It was really, she kind of found herself when she was able to really, really just be alone. So, or 2 days ago, damn, time is crazy right now. So, yeah. Another thing is that people project their emotional baggage onto the 12th house people instinctively. So that's like kind of why they can be projected on a lot, and why energetic emotional boundaries are so important. But yeah, so they can just be this magnet for people with difficult energy, right? With energetic issues. So basically, I would say that there can be a lot from that. There can be a lot of questioning, confusion around the identity. Who am I? Especially if you have like the sun, Mercury, Moon, Mars, these types of planets, Venus placed there, right? Really questioning your own sense of self. Who am I? So often, misunderstood, not feeling heard, not feeling seen, all these things, especially like early on, depending on the planets there, but regardless. So that constant internal dialogue, especially with Mercury, is difficult, right? And there can be a tendency to want to, so there's that fine balance between like how much alone time is too much and how much is just enough, right? Sometimes there's just long periods, and it really depends on the whole chart, right? Like you can have a very 12th house person that also has very social energies, like the 12th house, like my friend, has like all her planets are in Aries in the 12th house, right? And then some other, yeah. But it's just very interesting. So what happens is that, yeah, so there's always that theme of 12th houses of, like I said before, of other people overstepping their energetic and emotional boundaries. And sometimes they don't even realize it, and they take these people for granted because of their empathy and because of how energetically open the 12th house people are. They tend to, people will just trauma dump onto them and kind of dump their emotional baggage onto them. And sometimes the 12th house person will take that on, especially if it's like they're like, the parents, very important people like that, maybe someone that they're very, very close with, like a partner, like a really, really close friend, and start to take it on for themselves, right? That's like the big difference, like when you're doing healing work, is to kind of leave, no matter what the person says, is to not take it on for your no matter, even if you have a client who you love and you have so much empathy, which is like what part of the gift of being like a 12th houser, right? Or a Neptunian. But it's like, how can you still have all that compassion without, which is like one of the biggest questions for psychologists, is how can you hear all these terrible things and have so much love for the people who are sharing them to you, but then not take those home with you and have those kind of seep into you, right? That's a whole different video. So one thing I've noticed too is that talking to people who have these energies is that it's often like a bigger struggle to assert boundaries than with other people. You hear often that they might have tried to say no. They might have like had to, like, while for someone else it might be, they set their boundary firm once and then it's good, But sometimes for 12 housers, it's like they feel like this constant, it's almost like they're not being respected and their limits are just being pushed, right? So Yeah, and like, what do you think happens to someone who's already emotionally sensitive, who already is like a sponge for energy and takes on so much from about them, so much from the world around them and just in their environment or in general, they can have like, I guess it'd be like the equivalent of what's it called? A burnout. It's like an emotional burnout. So yeah, that's huge. So yeah, as I said, solitude is essential. Those moments alone, especially like, so you sort of have to craft your life in a way that is in relation to your chart. That's what I always say to my clients. If anyone wants to get a natal chart reading, as you know, I say at every video, go message me on Instagram or go on my website at jesseannistonastrology.com. But yeah, like people like this, they definitely need to put themselves first. That's sometimes a lot of their life purpose is to do that. But there's so much more of this. I'm gonna get into like the karma. Oh, I'm gonna go crazy in this video. But yeah, so they can, when they're alone, especially by water, like if you live by a lake, the ocean, especially, right? Like I was just talking to my friend, it's funny, like how I was planning, actually I wasn't planning on making this video, but like, yeah, like I was telling her about this. I was like, you need to go by the ocean. And she's like, yeah, she lives in France. She's like, yeah, like I actually do that. And she had, I think, 3 planets plus the South Node in the 12th, or was it 3 or 4? It was Saturn, Sun, Venus, Mercury, yeah, and the South Node. So a lot. And she's like, every time I go by the ocean, it's like a 2-hour, an hour train or something. I just get these downloads, right? So that's very typical. It's very, very healing, and your emotions kind of regulate, and life starts to make sense. Even baths, just drinking a bunch of water, whatever. But yeah, living by water, rain is amazing. Kind of doing things with that. But anyways, back to what I was saying. So those moments alone are huge, right? And what can happen, especially earlier in life, is that people, and this goes for a lot of spiritual people in general, people misunderstand. I'm a Pisces, so I completely agree with this. People misunderstand this need for alone time, and then they try to they think they're helping. And I know people are common if you've been here before. Like you just need to be alone, right? There's not really a right or wrong answer, and people try to give you advice, or they try to like tell you they basically try to problem solve for you, but really it's like, as a 12th house or 8th house or whatever, you are a psychological, you're just so, like, that's your shit. Like no one's better than you at that. I mean, you're basically a professional psychologist, regardless of whether you, of if that's your profession. And it kind of makes it almost like better to just not tell anyone, or maybe like there's like a few people you can tell because they'll understand, but it just makes it worse, right? It's almost like very intruding. People thinking they're helping, when really it's like, no, I just need to be alone to reset. Oh, what's wrong with, that doesn't happen to me anymore, but or like the whole like, oh, it's all in your head, it's all in your head, but really like people just don't understand, people just, they are not like that. And I think this can be really difficult for all kinds of relationships when, your social battery, someone else can have a social battery that's up here. They can just always be around people. And then you, and this can be the 12th house or just like the empath in general. Your social battery can just be drained. And yeah, so then what can be difficult is like, yeah, it can not be easy for you to like kind of explain yourself, right? So the key is the right people around you. Okay, so I was saying earlier how the 12th house is like really like, it just like tracks these like people with mental health struggles, with spiritual struggles. Yeah, because you are like this natural healer, a lot of these people are stuck spiritually, right? They could have some type of spiritual sickness. I don't know how you want to define that, but there's some type of like fragmentation, and basically taking on other people's pain like that. It's such a common theme. You hear like some of the most spiritual people talk about their relationship with this narcissist, that narcissist, and it's just a very common theme, right? But yeah, so then when we talk about mental health, right? There's a lot, because of the isolation and just some of the just a lot of there is the tendency for mental health issues, depending on what's there, like depression and whatnot. But really, there's a need for either creative outlets, whether it's writing, music, whatever, art, or the big one, service. Being of service. A lot of 12th housers. I always give this example of this girl I used to know, who her life was just a complete mess, and then she started just being like very spiritual. I don't know how else to define that or how else to say that. And her life just became just so different. It's like she's unrecognizable. It was complete chaos, right? So that's really, really important. And I think that another big thing for 12th house is escapism. As we know, there's a big link between like the low vibe of Pisces and Neptune and use it. It's not just drugs and alcohol. It's kind of just escaping reality. Not dealing with just kind of Neptune represents this better realm, this imaginary realm. So kind of escaping that. So, okay, in terms of the spiritual gifts, there's so many of them, right? A lot the people here, once they can figure out their boundaries, they can figure out their life direction. Not just life direction, they can kind of see themselves clearly, right? It can be very difficult for 12th house people to see themselves clearly and get a good idea of like who they are and where they're going. They can just be so intuitive. They can have like all like the clairvoyant, clairaudience, all that stuff, right? Like being connected to spirit, to the collective unconscious. They're very good listeners, so they can be incredible healers, but just people who are really tapped in. Meditation, dreaming, or sleeping and connecting with your dreams. Like it's like you have the ability to be tapped into the collective unconscious and understand God, which sounds like a big statement, but like understanding the oneness that connects us all. Of course, also the 12th house rules hidden enemies. I need to mention that too. So, yeah, that could literally be friends that keep, like I was saying before, keep overstepping and then start kind of resenting you, or just or it could be like I've heard it in a lot of my sessions of just people who are jealous, or who just they like the people that they would never expect to be their enemies. I guess so what I would say like with like the whole service to others, it's just it doesn't have to be just astrology, psychology, humanitarianism. It can be through teaching, through anything where you are like by giving, And I understand we live in this world, money is a thing, survival is a thing, right? But you're able to kind of give your gifts, you're able to really feel that connection, and through helping someone else, you're able to help yourself. Because like a 12th house person isn't fully healed by achievement, like they're healed by service, right? Now some people say in some cases, okay, if you like it's just a lot of karma around, like different past lives where you were one way, and now you have to kind of give back in this life. I don't know. I think every chart is different. So yeah, I think, okay, so now like more of the karmic energy. So I think that so like I said before, this can be linked to repressed energies. Now this can also be related karmically to repressed gifts or unfinished soul lessons from past lives, or different stages in the soul development. So having this, you have reincarnated to with this 12th house energy. It's almost like it's very fate inducing in the sense that you're here to reclaim your spiritual power and your true essence, And it's not by controlling, it's by surrendering. And that's why if you think about the astrology of fate, you have like I just gave you the example of that girl I used to know. And like I'm telling you, like her life was absolute chaos, and she she like it could literally be a movie. She was just kind of, it was almost like God would throw everything at her, and she would just escape. So she was this. I'm not gonna give the whole context, but basically, like, she would just like go out a lot, and when things, and then, like, let's say like something like a bad parking ticket would happen, or something, something at her work, or she would like overspend, with her rent, or she'd have like, things with guys. I don't even know, like kind of messy energy, and creating weird energy, not weird, but just creating messy energy by, let's just say, making questionable decisions when it comes to dating and men in general, and just being very ungrounded with what she wants in that department. Very beautiful girl. And yeah, like, just instead of grounding and not, because this is one of the things, okay, I'm happy I remember this. Self-sabotage. 12th house is one of the shadows of 12th house people is self-sabotage. It could be fear of success, fear of failure. So when that person, when they don't have that self-esteem fixed, right? And the way that a 12th houser fixes their self-esteem is through creativity or through giving back, right? When they're able to do that, it doesn't have to be, creating like for Instagram likes. It can be something that they don't show anyone: drawing, singing, dancing, whatever, talking into a camera. But it's just like they need to ground themselves. And yeah, a lot of times that is the case, that you have those planets because it's almost like you're encumbered in a way. And if you just run, you can do what you want, but it's kind of like you're running in a circle. You know what I mean? So getting yourself in order. What's the opposite of the 12th house? The 6th house, the house of order. Virgo, right? So getting your life in order, getting your life, getting your everyday life in order, finding that balance between the material realm and the physical realm. The to-do lists, all that stuff, right? Super important. So, yeah, so people who do this, when they're able to surrender and find this higher purpose, they can be some of the greatest people. Now, it's interesting too, I would add that I see a lot of celebrities or politicians who have a lot of 12th house energies. And I've noticed that a lot of times it's not the best celebrities or the best, it's a lot of times politicians, right? And that, 12th house, that's another part of the 12th house. But I'm not going to get into that, because 12th house also rules, obviously, like what's hidden, 8th house, 12th house. But yeah, I'm not going to get into that right now. Yeah, so I guess more on the hidden enemies thing is that hidden enemies aren't always evil people, right? They're often people who just expect more from you than you should give, or you're willing to give, But like I said, it can also be past life enemies, So people who have a lot of 12th house planets, their life is very much ruled by karma in a lot of ways. 12th house Venus, you have like these very, super karmic, and always, the stories are always so interesting, right? They're so abnormal. Like meeting someone who you're absolutely in love with, and they're absolutely in love with you, but they're in a relationship. or you guys are from different cultures where, it just, or like, different social classes, like, not that that's bad, but you know what I'm saying? Like kind of that idea of like something that's not supposed to work, or, some, like not something that seems wrong in a way. Like when I say the social class thing, I guess I expand on an example of that would be like, someone who's from like a very elitist family, and they only want, let's say, their son to date someone from another family. That's, and then the son meets the 12th house Venus woman or girl / woman, and they fall in love. Or like the 12th house, or that man is already like married, something like that. There's all kinds of things. Very, very interesting. But yeah, so back to solitude. It's really spiritual recalibration at the end of the day. Learning to be alone and not lonely. Learning to be the biggest gift, the biggest skill for not just 12 houses, but people in general, is when you can learn to not create the story that your alone time is loneliness, right? When you can learn to, in a past video on Instagram, I said that you need to learn how to date yourself. And what I meant by this analogy was that if you, on a scale of 1 to 10, you by yourself, right? Single / just by yourself is a 4 out of 10. Then, like, when you meet someone who's a 5 or 6 out of 10, not looks, I'm talking about like who they are as a person, or if you really hate being alone, like let's say it's you say me dating myself, or me in my own energy, is a 3 out of 10. And then you meet someone who's a 4 or 0.5 out of 10, still super toxic, or even a 3.5 out of 10, you might be like, okay, like, bring that person on. But if you with yourself is like a 9 or 10 out of 10 or 9.5 out of 10, then when you meet someone who's like a 7 out of 10, and this isn't about being, perfection and stuff, right? It's just that you're not going to just jump into something unless it really, really works for you, right? And then you're gonna have more of an abundance mindset, and you're not dating someone from a place of lack. You're dating someone, or you're not dating / best friends / work, anything, right? Anyone in your life is deliberate, and there's someone that is truly based off your authentic love for them, not on any circumstances, of lack. So that's huge. And I feel like that spiritual recalibration comes, so when the 12th houser is able to be in that place of solitude, and a lot of times what happens is that there can be like periods of being out and about a lot, and then kind of retreat, right? And it's getting really, really in tune with who you are, your natural energy, and then from that, being able to kind of understand other people's energies. If you know that this is, okay, I feel like this when I'm in my energy. Okay, I just hung out with this person for 4 hours and now I feel down here. I feel like this. That means that person's energy was draining my energy, right? So that's the mindfulness, the importance of that. And then from that comes the boundaries. And when you can create the boundaries, it's like this around you, And it gets so much easier each time. And anyone that doesn't respect that is not a real friend. That's the truth, right? Anyone that doesn't respect your boundaries when you've made it clear to them, that's not a real friend. And losing them shouldn't be that big of a deal. And in the sense that like a real friend would respect that. You know what I mean? Because you're so connected to the collective unconscious, because you're so connected to other realms, and because a lot of this information that you're taking in is hard to talk about with other people, it's hard to kind of, it's hard for other people to relate to it. You need, you either, like, it's important to have friends that, friends, or at least a community of people who you can kind of talk to about these types of things. but also, yeah, time alone, right? Time, you need to, like, if you're always surrounded by other energies, you're just gonna be taking their energy and taking their energy, and you see how someone's life could just be like that, like the girl I told you before, like super chaotic, because she never gave herself that time alone. After she became very Buddhist, she was able to kind of sit with herself and then just have great boundaries. I haven't talked to her in a while, but like just, have really, really true friends and just a very peaceful aura, you know? So yeah, I think that like the need for regular solitude is extremely necessary to process the downloads that you're getting, right? And to reconnect to your soul, because there can be a lot of shame that you might take on from other people that's not yours, or like sometimes 12th house people feel a little bit socially awkward, or just like they don't belong. And let's say they're in a social environment where everyone else is like kind of, how do you say it? Let's say not better at socializing, but better. I don't even want to be like cynical and say better at being fake, but like better at just kind of playing their social ego role. Like the mask. Like they're the 12th house person. The mask. I mean, yes, they can be a chameleon, but they want shit to be real. So it can be really, really draining to be in situations like that. So reconnecting to their soul is super important. It doesn't mean that they can't, like, that they're meant to just stay in isolation. No, there needs to be a balance, right? But finding your tribe of people that you are connected to on a soul level, or some kind of way to connect with yourself, actually, really, that's the first step, is so important. So yeah, on solitude, now there's a difference between that depression and escapism that can creep in when the person is in solitude, and someone having those creative spiritual outlets. That's the big difference between like the mystic and the quote is the mystic and the drug addict exist in the same waters. The mystic just learns how to swim. That's 12th house. So okay, now if you don't have any planets in the 12th, what does it mean? So basically, the sign on the 12th house cusp is really linked to your hidden struggles, spiritual tests, right? And a lot of your karmic lessons, I would say. Yeah, so it's really, you can look at the ruler of your 12th also for more info, the ruling planet. So let me see, where is my notes? This is where. So I wrote, it's the archetype that's repressed or hidden from your conscious personality. You don't express it easily. It operates behind the scenes, often unconsciously. It's the energy you project without realizing, especially when you're under stress, tired, isolated, or vulnerable. It shows what type of karmic patterns you are trying to heal or complete, often tied to past life themes of ancestral patterns. Represents a style of pain, longing, confusion, and past life survival strategy that you're carrying forward. It flavors your dreams, fears, unconscious motivations, and even the kind of spiritual downloads you receive. And then, yeah, this part. You often attract people or situations carrying the 12th house sign's energy because your soul is trying to make peace with it. So it represents the shadow work you're doing behind the scenes without necessarily being aware you're doing it. You might even judge people who embody that sign's traits openly without realizing you are secretly working through the same energy internally. So I'm Cancer 12th house. What's your 12th house? I got no planets there, but I got Cancer 29 degrees. And let me tell you, Cancer has been a challenging sign for me, which is interesting because I'm a Pisces sun, and Scorpio has been very, very good. Yeah. So, okay. So should I kind of go a little deeper? Let's see. So, yeah. So the sign of your 12th house shows the style of energy your soul is trying to make peace with, not through control, but through surrender, healing, and integration. It's the hidden archetype you're constantly working with behind the scenes, often without even knowing it. Okay. So Pisces, extreme. So 12th house Pisces, right? Extreme spiritual sensitivity, and merging with others' pain, karmic need to develop boundaries while staying compassionate. So Aquarius 12th house, feeling like an outsider deep inside. Karmic healing around belonging, community, and revolutionary vision. Capricorn, fear of vulnerability and deep distrust of authority, including your own. Karmic lesson is about true responsibility and spiritual leadership. Sag, subconscious wanderlust and existential longing. Karmic work around faith, freedom, and meaning. Scorpio, hidden intense emotions. Fear of loss/control, karmic purification around power, intimacy, and trust. Libra, fear of dependency or betrayal in relationships, karmic lessons around inner balance, fairness, and connection. Virgo, inner self-criticism and perfectionism, karmic healing around self-forgiveness and learning to allow imperfection. Leo, fear of shining or being seen, karmic wounds around pride, creativity, and recognition. Cancer, suppressed emotional needs and maternal instincts, karmic work around vulnerability, nurturing, and trusting emotional expression. Gemini, hidden anxiety and restlessness, karmic healing around communicating truth versus fragmentation or gossip. Taurus, subconscious attachment to security and comfort, karmic patterns around releasing material attachment and trusting spiritual abundance. And finally, Aries, repressed anger, fear of asserting yourself, karmic lessons around healthy self-assertion and autonomy. So there we go. I just read all those. Hope you guys aren't mad at me, but yeah. Lots I talked about in this video. Damn, only 40 minutes. It felt like longer. But yeah, so I hope this taught you guys a thing or two about the 12th house. There's still even more, you can go into, obviously, but it's kind of when you see a chart that has a lot of 12th house, it's always very interesting, and it's always kind of like, okay, damn, this is not going to be an easy reading, just because it's, there's been entire books written about the 12th house. There's so much about it that it's like, how do you summarize this, right? And even what I just read to you, that's very simplified. You know what I mean? Very, very simplified. I read it because I saw it was good. I looked at 4 or 5 of them, my own and for people I know very well. And I was like, that works, But usually I won't read something like this for video. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. Do you have 12th house planets? And if not, what's the sign? And also, what I should add is that the ruling planet can say a lot too, based on, the karma, the karma related to your 12th house energy, right? So, and if you want to get really deep, you could say the degree as well. So, anyways, you can kind of add that ruling planets and the aspects to it, the house it's in, to tell you more about the themes of your 12th house. So, anyways, I hope you guys like this video. Please, guys, like, subscribe, comment. I don't want to sound like a robot, but I'm getting close to. I'm not far from that point of monetization. 4,000. Well, I think my AdSense is broken, but the point is, I need to get 4,000 hours in a year, and I'm at 3,400, but it's April right now, and last May I had some of my biggest videos, so it's kind of not looking good. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Whatever happens, happens. But I'm gonna lose a bunch of hours in the next month unless people, I get a bunch of views. So anyone that wants to, I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to get in trouble. But anyone that feels like, let's just say, watching a lot of my videos, or even just having them on in the background when you work, would appreciate that a lot. Much love to you all. Thank you so much. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.